Namato Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Zem, the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening. So today is Sunday the 5th of July 2020, and this is Chan Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center in Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I am here with you tonight to share some of my thoughts and on a Buddhist perspective. And thank you everyone for listening to me almost every night. Some of you have never missed, and some of you just joined with us. So hello Margaret, Baisi, Manish and everyone. Yeah. And I know that Margaret never miss this night talk and a chanting and a meditation. So I'm very glad to hear your feedbacks and your thoughts after listening the talks and a guided meditation. And there are plenty of our visitors just will come and listen for a couple of words and will leave, thinking that this is not a cup of tea. And some would stay and will struck that, there is something I want to know about the Buddhism or about what it is. Yeah. So we will see various types of people joining in and various intention and motivation to listen. And some would just come and go, and others will stick for some times. And it is for sure that one who spend time to listen, they will get more opportunity to learn and get knowledge, and also will get the success in their lives. So patience is the key, and persistent is the tool to get into the reality, get into the more knowledge and understanding. But obviously it is not that we can judge each and every one who just passed by are not interested in the Dhamma. They do interested in the Dhammas, but somehow they do not have this patience, or somehow they do not have this persistence or interest, or in a bigger word, a confidence or belief they don't have on a person who is giving or the teachings that he is receiving or she is receiving. So as a result of that, some would just come and go, and others will just stick. And those who will stay will get the better, as there is this Irish beer says, one who waits will enjoy. But that having said, as a Buddhist monk, I'm not encouraging you to take the alcohol to enjoy, okay? It is just a phrase that I copied from it, the advertisement saying, one who waits always enjoy. So I do understand that throughout this 3 months, over the 3 months time of giving a talk and a leading and a chanting and a meditation, there are so many people listening, and as well as so many people just come and go, just like a window shopping. Just look at the beautiful items from windows and then just pass by. And that's same in the Facebook too, Facebook Lives, because I do not see the talker or the giver, the Dhamma preacher will not see that who is looking and who is watching and who is listening. So it's almost a freedom, audience freedom to choose to stay or choose to go. Yeah. But basically, what the Buddha said, that one who listens more, one who reads more, definitely he will gain more knowledge. He will know the understanding of things. That's why Buddha said that if we listen a lot, things that we do not know, we will know. Things that we already know, it's become more clearer. And also encouragement to get into the path and knowing the truth and true reality of it. But again, if always too serious, people don't like it. That's why it's called, if you're following too seriously, too much energy has been applied, then again that brings boredom and not happy. But in the same time, if you lose your interest and do not put much energy in it at all, then again it makes you sleepy, slappy, and not able to develop your knowledge and wisdom to live by, or even to understand the things you should know. So that is what the exact teachings of the Buddha on the day of this Asala Puja, or this Asala Puja Purnima, or the July Purnima, or the full moon day in July, which is one of the very, very important days in a Buddhist culture. It is a day, I think I have already mentioned a couple of nights now, and about a couple of days ago I even dedicated on this topic purely to explain what Asala Puja and what is Vasavasa, and over the last couple of nights I've been touching and explaining about it. That why this Asala Puja, or the full moon day in July, is such an important day. And this is on this day, when we look at the teachings of the Buddha, simply saying that do not press too much, or do not expect too much, or do not push yourself hard too much. If you put too much effort, then again there's a lot of possibility that may break. And if you are too loose to practice, or too loose to study, or okay, I will do it later, or I will do it next time, and so, then again you won't be able to success in your life. So we have to follow the middle path. That was the teachings of the Buddha. And in order to follow the middle path, or in order to understand the true Dhamma, or true knowledge, or the guidance to get by or to get on with the life, there are other ways to develop the knowledge, and one of the best way to develop knowledge is called Suttamaya Panya, which means the knowledge that you have acquired by listening. And here listening is not just like listening the talks, but it is also reading books, reading a lot and listening a lot. It helps to find the ways to go on and find the solution. And here again, when we listen to some people, they may misguide you. I remember a few years ago, about 2005, I was doing my research for the master's degree in Thailand, and that happened that I had a chance to come to UK, and having known that one of the professors in Oxford University, he is a very good, very well-known scholar on the topic that I was doing research. So I went to visit him after I had made appointments. Once I arrived in Oxford city, and I never been before, so I asked one of the passers-by, saying that where is that building in this university. Little did I know, he pointed to the wrong direction. It's like I supposed to go north, but he pointed me to pointed the direction to the west. So I walked. I walked probably around 15 minutes and I realized that this is not the right way. It is taking me away from the university. So then I had to ask again another person, and then took me the right path. So that's why listening alone is not that is always the right. So that's why Buddha always challenged us to investigate what you have heard, what you have read, that any topics or anything, any subjects, any stories that we have heard, we should investigate first before we take it into the truth. Particularly on the social media nowadays, you can hear and you can read thousands or plenty of fake news. So that's why whatever we read on a Facebook, it's very, very important to distill it properly and find the real news or real story of that particular things. And that's simply the teachings of the Buddha saying that whatever you have heard, whatever you have read, before you believing in, investigate. So that's called a Chintamaya Panya. Think about it. Yeah, Chinta means think, investigate, think about it, whether the story that you are reading is true or not, whether the story that you have heard, is there any fact or not. So once you have investigated and tried to find the right story, and once you have found the right story, then take it as what you have read is the truth. And yet still is not the real meaning or real teachings of the Buddha. Buddha said that these knowledge that we have got is simply the external knowledge. Okay, external knowledge, or that won't help us to eradicate our sufferings. And the suffering is the main key in the Buddha's teachings. And throughout the history or throughout the time of the Buddha's dispensation for 45 years, Buddha said that he taught only what is suffering and how to get rid of suffering. Nothing more than 2 teachings. So that's why getting rid of suffering is the most important part of a Buddhist practice. And we cannot deny that we don't have any suffering. Yeah? Is there anyone who never suffered? We all are facing different varieties of sufferings. Yeah? I remember, or you all who are listening, you may be, rethink about your childhood, and you will think that this whole world is so beautiful, everything is perfect and nothing is wrong, and there is no suffering at all. Even you fall down and you will just stand up and feeling laughing and going on. But as the age takes you more and more, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, then gradually you will see, oh, I have got pain this way, or I have got pain that way. That's a physical pain. The second, the mental pain you will experience maybe at the time when you were teenage. The first mental suffering you will suffer or you will experience if nothing happened in the family is love story. Yeah. So just go back and think about your childhood memories, and when you're teenage, the first mental experience that makes you stronger, is the love story. So sometimes people do call it puppy love. Yeah. So when you have that sort of a love, and obviously as you grow up, emotion change, feeling change, and mental suffering creates. But that mental suffering is not that making you weak. Having said that, it doesn't mean that there aren't people who are feeling weak throughout the life, but majority won't feel down, but take it as example and grow stronger. And that's how develop the mind set which is stronger and stronger to deal with other people, and then deal with the daily life problems, and again become a more resilient and standing up to the world of this suffering. And that's another reason why people also said that do not look down on someone who is failed. One day they may return in a successful way. So that's why these all the sufferings that we are experiencing basically making us stronger, and yet we cannot overcome this suffering. So all the knowledge that we have heard, that we have investigated and thoughts, and these are like a scientific knowledge that we acquired, simply is not enough to get the real happiness. And that real happiness that what Buddha is talking about is to eliminate the cause of this suffering. So understanding the suffering and ability to free yourself from that suffering. And that can be done through your own experimenting, not external things, but internalizing internal things. So that's why it is called the Bhavanamaya Panya. So once we have done this Bhavanamaya Panya, so internalized and investigating, and then with this we will attain the true knowledge and realize, this is, and it won't change. And that internalized teachings or the understanding or experiment is the true knowledge that leads us to the freedom, to the liberation. And that is what Buddha was talking about. And in this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first discourse, obviously Buddha was talking about the suffering and end of suffering, and which is famously known as the Four Noble Truths. And in case someone comes here and asks you what the Buddha taught, or what is the teachings of Buddhism, then obviously we would answer, this is Four Noble Truths. And what are the Four Noble Truths? The noble truth of suffering, noble truth of the cause of suffering, noble truth of the cessation of suffering, and noble truth of the way to cessation of the suffering. And in a short term, there is a suffering, there is a cause of suffering, and this suffering can be ended, and there is a way. And sometimes people take it as a negative and nihilistic. And that's how sometimes people project Buddhism in a nihilistic way, that is a negative. But frankly saying, nowadays TV broadcast will never talks about good things so many times. They will only sell all the bad things, and that's why we are stick with it most of the time. You will hear very little about the good things someone has done, but you will hear a lot about the bad things going on. And yet, human nature is such that we love to listen bad things rather than good things, although we like the good things. We would like to talk about the bad things, we like to see about the bad things. And yet, we are looking for good things. We want to see the good things happen. Yeah? And that's same, the media is like that, always selling you the bad news, bad thing, and yet we are entertaining. Yeah? So the negative things, but when Buddha was talking about that the life is suffering, normally take it as a nihilistic or negative. But in fact, the Buddha was pointing the true reality, but he didn't stop there. That's why they're saying that if the Buddha only talks about the suffering, which is the negative, and stop there rather than finding the solution, then he was a nihilistic. or he was preaching the nihilism. But he just simply presented that you got this disease. Now you need to find the solution. Yeah? So this disease is very dangerous, and now find the cause of it. And then once you found the cause for this disease, definitely you know that there is end of it. And the way to end the disease is follow the instructions that given by the doctors or nurses, taking a medicine properly, changing your lifestyle properly, and that's how you will take to this disease to the elimination. And that's the teachings of the Buddha. So the whole Buddha's teachings is basically on the Four Noble Truths. And despite of this vast canon, this Buddhist scripture, maybe more than any other religious beliefs have produced by one single person, which we call the Tipitaka. 45 years of his teachings compiled into this vast Tipitaka, basically the elaboration of this Four Noble Truths and ways to know this Four Noble Truths and ways to free ourselves from this suffering. Nothing more than that. He wasn't talking about the dogmas, he wasn't talking about any philosophical views, or he wasn't talking about any nonsense. He was simply talking that there is a dukkha and there is a way to end the dukkha. In one of the discourses he even said, it's called Sisapan. In that, the Buddha was in this forest called Sisa. And in that forest, along with the monks, he just picked up some leaves and told the venables, their monks, what do you think the leaves in my hand compare to the leaves in the forest? Which one is more? And obviously, the leaves in our hands will be very limited. It's a handful compared to the forest. There are millions of leaves falling down in a forest. So the monks replied to the Buddha, my Lord, leaves in the forest are more compared to your hand, compared to on your hand. So then Buddha said, that is true. So the teachings that I have taught you also like that. I have known like the leaves in the forest, but I have not taught you. But I have told you only handful of this teachings which is sufficient enough to get rid of this suffering. To get rid of the suffering. And that is, there is the dukkha, the suffering, and there is a way to end the suffering. Nothing more. And look at that. The phrase that Buddha used, that I have known like the leaves in the forests. That much vast knowledge he acquired. He achieved. And yet he didn't teach all those knowledges, but he only focused on one topic, that is the suffering, or called the dukkha, and how to get rid of this dukkha. Nothing more than anything else. And yet the vast Tipitaka is dedicated to realize this dukkha and how to get rid of it. So that's why the Four Noble Truths become the cornerstones of the Buddha's teachings, or this is the base or the foundation for the Buddha's philosophy. And all the vast Tipitaka is basically explaining what the Four Noble Truths are and how can we understand that. And this, in very summary, Buddha spoke on this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, which is the first discourse of the Buddha. That's why I call it as the foundation of Buddha's philosophy. And this is the Four Noble Truths that Buddha also said that It is like the all animals' footprints can accommodate in the footprints of the elephant. So the whole teachings of the Buddha can also include in this Four Noble Truth. So that's why this is the main teachings of the Buddha that we have to realize. And once we have realized, then we truly understood the Buddha's teachings. And we do know that there are so many people study about the Buddhism and studied and learn it, and there are so many scholars on it too. But that's the philosophy in my understanding. We have to apply in our day-to-day life. That's why just saying a Buddhist doesn't mean that you are a Buddhist as long as you haven't applied and understood the true meaning of what the dukkha is. So that's why Buddha simply was talking that it is not the understanding of external things about the world, but to understand our own self, how we are experiencing the suffering, and how can we get rid of this suffering. And in order to get rid of this suffering, Buddha introduced the Eightfold Noble Path. And that Eightfold Noble Path, in a summary, is the Sila, Samadhi, Panya, or the morality, concentration, and wisdom. And all, again, the foundation building towards the enlightenment or towards the development of our own self lies on the moral living or ethical living. And that's why the 5 precepts been so crucial in the teachings of the Buddha. And once we have practiced the 5 precepts properly, then the rest will slowly come up. And gradually we will be able to understand this true Dhamma and be free from this cycle of birth and death. Until then, we still wandering around in this cycle of birth and death continuously. We hope with this perseverance and with this continuously practicing or listening will aid us to find the right way, a right time, a right solution, and be liberated. So I offer this for tonight's talk. May you be happy, peaceful, and stay safe. May you all be well. And thank you everyone for listening from around the world, here in Aberdeen as well as internationally. On this occasion of Asala Puja, may you all be well and safe, and may you all attain the true Dhamma like the Venerable Kondanya attained on the Asala Puja day, and then liberated. So, in a few minutes' time, we will have chanting and guided meditation. You're most welcome to join with us for the chanting and meditation. If not, we'll see you tomorrow for the talk. Until then, good night and see you shortly. Thank you.